Picture this. The year is 2016, about 8 years ago. Wait, holy Hideo Kojima, the legend himself, has had a relatively public falling out with Konami a couple years prior, and after the release of Metal Gear Solid 5's incredible success, but not without a few controversies, namely Ground Zeroes kind of being a scam, and Silent Hill PT being cancelled. A surprise given how hyped and loved it was, to the point where consoles with it are now worth hundreds to thousands of dollars. But even with these hitches, given his amazing track record with generation-defining games, everyone is eagerly awaiting something, anything new. And then, at E3 2016, you see this. Oh my god, a new studio? A naked Norman Reedus back from PT? A baby? An insane looking beach with 5 floating bodies? Everyone, including myself, was absolutely hooked. What could such a thing be? Horror, action, dating sim.
Nicole, I didn't know you were in AP History.
Huh? No, I'm not in AP History.
Then why are you reading Mein Kampf?
I'm racist now.
We needed to know more. Flash forwards to the Game Awards, where we get probably its most iconic trailer, with Guillermo del Toro holding a baby in a jar, in a war-ravaged city with World War II era soldiers and equipment, but all of the soldiers are skeletons supported by fleshy tanks, while a reversed rainbow is seen above them, before panning into the black liquid in the sewers, where the seemingly commander shows himself in this amazing shot. Mads Mikkelsen of all people are in this game. Combine that with Del Toro and Norman Reedus, this is like one of the most stacked casts in any game up to this point. Likely due to Kojima having tons of famous friends, but this had to mean this was going to be something absolutely special, something worth your attention. An impression that was greatly supported by some of its longer trailers that we got along the way, like the one where we see our main character and a team where they seem to have come under attack, with one of their members being stuck under a truck as the black rain just starts to age him, as an invisible monster begins to hunt them down, with their only way of knowing where it's at being this weird detector thing. But then the horror isn't over, as their cargo, a corpse with a golden face, starts to convulse. Then one of the main characters of the trailer is forced to kill the other, then throws us his baby container to save it as well as us, game-ending himself so he doesn't get taken by the monster. Cue giant creature, then once again Norman Reedus awakes on a familiar beach. Yeah, this is awesome. You had to know, I had to know, everyone had to know what this game was. Sure, the gameplay reveal wasn't the craziest thing, just showing the world and package delivery, but surely this couldn't be it. This couldn't be the game alone, right? Hell, those trailers alone showed that this game had to be holding some sort of secret or hidden gameplay mechanic that we don't know about that's gonna be crazy, and most people were ready to find out what it really was. Then the day came where people finally got their hands on this game.
It's one of my hardest ratings. I'm gonna go ahead and have to issue this one a 7 out of 10. I think if you take the gameplay 8 out of 10, or no, 4 out of 10, and you take the world and 8 out of 10, you average it for a 6. I'm gonna bump it up to 7 because it's memorable, it sticks with me. I can see somebody being way lower, somebody being way higher. This is one of those that it's not everyone's cup of tea and you're gonna be exhausted by the end of it, for sure.
I can understand why some people might enjoy Death Stranding, and while things do pick up in the later half, it lacks exciting gameplay, a compelling narrative, and has an excessive runtime. And that is why Death Stranding is so bad.
Yeah, people weren't exactly happy. Don't get me wrong, there were plenty of people who loved this game to death, but just as many people who absolutely hated it. calling it just another walking simulator with unfun gameplay, mechanics, to a really confusing narrative, which was an absolute surprise from pretty much everyone interested in this title. As sure, Kojima games tend to have weird narratives, but one that people just don't like is kinda new. Some people, even people I've met in person, said that they were lied to, with the trailers giving them the impression it would be something much different, even though the gameplay in its pretty much entirety was shown off at several points, like Tokyo Game Show. Hearing this amount of discourse from a Kojima game of all things was really surprising, as for the most part, his games are loved, if a little criticized for their previously mentioned wacky writing.
We run together.
Run?
Yeah. Like Mario and Princess Peach.
Oh my god, that's the worst fucking dialogue. Oh my god, what the fuck is happening?
From the relatively niche Zone of the Ender series to the well-known Metal Gear Solid franchise that defined some very specific individuals' political alignments. Personally, hearing the amount of hate and love when it came out actually kept me off it because, rather simply, I was a high school student with not much money and someone who recently quit console gaming for PC, namely to avoid the jet engine as PS4. So I stayed on the sidelines with the rough understanding that it was a really mixed experience that required you to be a specific type of person to enjoy. But over the years, I've seen the several hour-long videos slowly popping up, turning towards a more positive look on the game, especially during the big C that happened recently that I cannot name or shall I incur YouTube's wrath. Which leads me to now, after a whole 8 years, and an absolutely amazing trailer for its sequel that even my mom liked and was interested in the game as a result. I set out with the goal for myself. So, despite how hard the game may be, how boring it could play, or how difficult it is to properly understand, I would learn what Death Stranding really is all about, and maybe along the way, learn to truly love Death Stranding in the end. I'm gonna let you know, this is probably gonna be a long video, and I'll be covering the story in a bit more depth in one big segment in the latter half of the video, because most of this will be based around how the game actually feels to play, which is the part that's really most important and misunderstood. So I'll have some chapters so you can skip to moments you might want to hear about, or so you can come back later if you so wish. I also usually don't ask here, but if you like this and want to see more stuff like this from me, considering subscribing or leaving hate mail in the comments so we can have a flame war. I put a lot of time to create something and hope you all enjoy this tale of how I learned to love Death Stranding. First of all, what even is a Death Stranding? Well, it's a game where you, Sam Porter Bridges, a legendary porter, shut-in human connection-fearing man with aphanphosmophobia, that's the fear touch that causes marks on you by the way, are a delivery man, strong-armed into working for the Bridges delivery service, as well as the United Cities of America, after the last president of the US, who was our adopted mother, dies in a world destroyed by the catastrophic event known as the Death Stranding. A world-ending threat that trapped humanity between life and death, causing anyone who dies but isn't burned to transform into something known as a BT, a beached thing. A monster that forms when a human dies, yet its soul tries to reconnect with its dead body, but fails, getting stranded, forming the BT, which can appear as a ghostly human or things much more wild. These BTs, however, are made of antimatter that, when interacting with the human, will attempt to pull us in, which, due to the reaction with said antimatter, causes massive explosions, causes voidouts. An explosion that can level entire cities. I don't have to tell you, that is
very icky, no good.
Unsurprisingly, this has destroyed much of the world as we know it. Combined with the timefall rain ages anything and everything it touches till death or degradation, life itself is on the verge of extinction, as well with cities being futuristic but isolated areas, barely keeping it together by themselves, with most of their populace hiding indoors for most of their lives, afraid of going outside to form connections with people, resulting in a shut-in declining population, while normal people known as preppers are holding out the best they can on their own, fearful of the outside world. So you know these people are probably addicted to VR chat. Now, that's where we come in, once again as a porter, not only delivering packages through BT, Thief, or even terrorist-infected lands to, regardless of distance or danger, reconnect America's isolated and hurting populace, and meanwhile along the way, discover exactly what caused the Death Stranding, its nature, but hopefully how to stop it. An absolutely amazing premise executed by delivering packages, hopefully convincing the stranded and lonely people of the former US to join the new chiral network dedicated to connecting everyone together once again, which may make this game sound like a boring Amazon walking simulator as many have stated over the years. Well, yes, this is kinda true. It's not the whole story. Take this world for instance. In games, people generally agree are walking sims like What Remains of Edith Finch, or something a little bit more actiony like Soma. Walking is still the main thing, with most stuff interactable, just being story stuff or flair, while the environments are just walking on a relatively flat plane that you may have to run through or away from something every once in a while. This isn't exactly bad, but Death Stranding takes those worlds and makes it an enemy to you, making traversing them a mechanical challenge in and of itself to overcome. Meaning, we actually have to talk about the world first to put the rest of the gameplay in perspective, since all systems revolve around it. The world doesn't have much when it comes to ruins or remnants of the old world, which is what I personally wanted to see, but it's still full of variety when it comes to diverse locations. There are sprawling plains, snowy mountains, forests, even some volcanic areas? I actually don't know what to call this. All of these having different things you have to look out for, namely the roughness, height, or depth of a terrain, which will be shown on your scanner, varying from blue, yellow, and red based on how difficult of a terrain it is to traverse. Most surfaces will be a-okay to walk on, which will lead to you for the most part taking that route if it is available. But anything marked red on a path can trip you if you're going a bit too fast, or carrying too much cargo. If you do fall, that valuable cargo can get damaged or even broken if it's something fragile or perishable. Even if it's a solid path without too much going on, if it's at a slope, it'll take some extra effort going up. But that slope can also be used to your favor if you're heading down to gain some speed, as long as you avoid falling over from losing control by not paying attention, of course. Rivers and bodies of water also provide a new gameplay option, with them being a bit of a challenge. Sure, it's just flowing or still water, which you can trudge through at the cost of stamina. A bar with a max that will get lower over time the more you go without rest or perform strenuous actions. But if that river's too deep or flowing too fast, if you don't take your time, actually brace yourself, manage that endurance gauge, which matches your stamina bar and will decrease quickly with every action till zero, where Sam loses his balance, falling, and can even get swept away in the river. Or if you fell in a really bad spot, dropping everything, watch it as you and the cargo gets carried away while you desperately try to stop yourself. Meanwhile, special locations exist with either a ton of rocks or ravines, with the most challenging being the snow-capped mountains that slow you with every step and make you even rethink simple movement due to how difficult traversal is, but also how snow degrades stuff faster than simple timefall. From the outside looking in, it definitely looks like a walking simulator, but when actually playing this, I can confidently say I really did fall in love with this game's movement and world. Because it doesn't just require you to learn all these areas naturally, but also develop a relationship between you and the world itself. You'll start to gravitate towards the simpler path that makes travel the most efficient and plot on the map your longer journeys, deciding if you want to take a longer but safer route or go for the faster but more deadly routes like the terrorist or BT infested locations. It really says a lot that despite the horrors and bad actors in this world, there's a point where I actually started considering simple rivers to be bigger threats to me and my cargo than getting shot at by rifles, making you rethink travel in a way that you most likely never have before. Just to think about other games with open worlds like The Witcher, Fallout, or even Baldur's Gate 3. Sure, they have big open spaces with things to look at, do, or find, but you'll never really pay attention to the little things like rocks, rivers, or puddles, usually just flying through them, collecting some items to get from point A to B, avoiding the odd environmental hazard that you might be able to use to your advantage. Where here, consciously or unconsciously, you'll always have a route planned while being aware of your surroundings, requiring at least some amount of patience from the player, since this admittedly is a bit of a walk from point A to B to get a cutscene, which might be difficult for some TikTok-brained individuals needing this kind of gameplay.
Is having this minor skill worth being so unattractive? That's for the fans to decide.
I'll admit, I make fun of this, but I did play YouTube in the background a lot of the time while discovering creative ways to get around the map. But despite the caution required, the world can even be peaceful or relaxing when going on long deliveries where the game might hit you with some music to keep you company. Music which will absolutely copyright strike me, so you'll have to just trust me here. On top of that, this world may seem lonely, but you rarely feel like it due to the game's multiplayer instances. You won't see players, but will definitely feel their impacts. There's cargo that they lost, which you can return, paths they took highlighted, or most fun, structures and vehicles you can see then use when connected to the chiral network. There are simple things like leftover ladders and anchors, which are small but can have a big impact on how you travel, but also pretty big things you have to spend large amounts of resources using a PCA to make, like generators to power your personal batteries, vehicles like the motorcycle or truck.
Eyes open, dumbass.
Mailboxes, timefall shelters, and even the glorious 7-lane highway that lets you completely skip a lot of difficult encounters or terrains. You may be alone, but you know that you can still help the people that come after you, just like the people before you did, often making me place things for other people's convenience, to where I even spent a large amount of time working on fixing the highway, which felt amazing after getting the notification that I helped a ton of people, getting likes as a result, reflecting that even though you don't know the person and will likely never meet them, you can still affect their lives, forming some sort of a connection with them, making this a real one-of-a-kind multiplayer system you can't really get anywhere else. Sure, you can get more player engagement or personal experiences in something like Destiny's Tower or Final Fantasy ERP, where you're actively working together or get to hang out in zones dedicated to player interaction. But here, all you have are likes you can give when going over or using a player structure. It's small, but enough to give you a real sense of community you can't find anywhere else, as it's proof that you helped at least one person. It's really when you develop this relationship with the world, which is actually quite gorgeous when looking at it, where the game really starts to click and every delivery is something you eventually learn to love to do, getting a real sense of accomplishment from completing them. I especially love how you were introduced to all this at the beginning of the game, with you speeding through the world filled with a surprising amount of wildlife that can die and be born in an instant because of the rain's effects, building a real sense of scale and mystique to what happened to our world, before a woman causes you to total your bike, losing your cargo you came all this way to bring, only to then get Sam's precious photo of him and 2 others aged, then hunted by a BT, before the woman introduces herself as Fragile, someone Sam is vaguely aware of. A cool, attention-getting intro, although it's kinda sad you'll never see wildlife ever outside of it, which sucks, making me feel like there was definitely something missing. You see so much wildlife in the first 30 seconds. It was admittedly probably a hardware or time constraint thing, but still totally blows when you're released to grab your cargo and see far less stuff. And speaking of deliveries, we talked about how this world affects Sam and how you play, but where are those mechanics that apply to you yourself? And why are we doing them in the first place? Well, during the intro, after the President Bridget Strand dies and we burn her body to prevent her from becoming a BT at the beginning of the game, we are then brought into Bridges in the UCA. Then our primary mission is revealed by a woman known as Amelie, our sister and Sam's only real connection, whose body remains on the dreaded beach.
Someone has to succeed Bridget, Sam. More importantly, someone has to carry on her legacy and see our country rebuilt. Samantha America Strand, our new president. A new beginning for our people, for our nation. Under Emily's leadership, we'll re-establish the UCA, the United Cities of America. This is how we'll rebuild our country. But we'll need your help to do it, Sam.
No, I'm through with this. I said my goodbyes to all of you when I said them to Bridget.
We never forgot about you, Sam. You ran away. You cut us off.
She, a few years back, managed to unite most of the ruins of the United States with an expedition known as Bridges 1, connecting cities or population centers while creating new ones to something new known as the chiral network, an incredibly fast, high bandwidth network that can connect virtually anything wirelessly, managing to go from the East Coast all the way to the West. This expedition unfortunately was halted at the Forest Inn at Edge Knot City, where the Homo Demons, a terrorist group who want independence who will do anything from nuking cities, killing indiscriminately, to even orchestrating void outs, captured her, killed the entire team, and crashed the chiral network. Now she's reaching out to us to complete the mission that was their mother's dream. If there was one complaint that I have about the game at this point, is that while I get it's going to be important in the narrative, Sam really does agree to this mission far too quickly. Yeah, he gets night's sleep before Amelie shows up and talks about forming connections, but Mr. Emotionally Distant agrees faster than a lonely Valorant player to duo with a member of the opposite sex. We then embark on that mission, requiring us to take and deliver the orders to whoever needs or wants it. We do this by going to any location's distribution center or mailbox, then talking to the specific head of that area's distribution. However, before we can even start that, we need to rest in a private room to restore stamina and health, look at all our stuff, read any message, play with and check on BB, and because Kojima is Kojima, way too much detail on Norman Reedus, with us being able to take a look at the mirrors, shower, drink, Mountain Dew. Yes, this is it. It's real. I had a very visceral reaction to this, even though I know Kojima needed the money to make this. It's still stupidly hilarious and hard to take serious, especially because you can actually harass the man here and get yourself punched as well. This gives me serious quiet from Metal Gear Solid 5 PTSD. Anyways, Kojima's questionable decisions aside, at the beginning and core of the gameplay, we can take either a request specifically for Sam, which usually progresses the story or gives important rewards, or a standard request, which can vary from a whole bunch of different things, from books, materials, to weapons, varying from a light 5 to 20 kilograms. To also a massive haul of 150 kilograms or even 1,000, which requires a truck to even get it to its destination. After resting and picking the order, you get to play my favorite game, inventory management. But unlike Resident Evil or Dead Space, not only are you the inventory, but it'll also be reflected as a gameplay mechanic you'll have to live with the whole time. Each package has 3 different sizes: small, medium, large, and extra large. You can sort them however you like, with one small package able to go on each limb, while bigger things have to be piled on your back, which you can stack honestly concerningly high. Yeah, I'm kinda concerned for the people who take this job's backs, especially with the US being destroyed. Like, is workers' comp even enforced anymore? Before heading out, you can also bring a variety of support items that you will have to carry as well if you choose them. Something simple like a ladder or an anchor can help you get around, while repair spray can keep your packages in tip-top condition. There are also more specialized things like blood bags that you can throw in your utility pouch so they can passively heal you or be used as ammo. Later on, you also get weapons such as grenades, which can be placed in a grenade pouch. Your backpack also has a slide slot for one item, which you can use with more ease. Personally, I often put repair spray, ladders, or guns in this slot for quick access. With this amount of stuff, the weight will obviously slow you down, but also change your center of gravity based on where you're stacking stuff. When walking around, this is what causes you to trip or fall more easily. requiring you to compensate with some button prompts to balance yourself in the respective direction with left or right triggers. You can even hold them for a full brace to prevent yourself from falling, stopping yourself from going too fast, or to get yourself through more difficult terrains like rivers or deep snow while doing all of the former. Stopping yourself from falling any other game, maybe except Jump King or Chained Together, normally isn't an issue, more of an annoyance. But here you really need to understand and take care of each mechanic to avoid it as much as possible, since the packages will get damaged through too much stress, with them having two durabilities to keep an eye on: container and item. Containers being, well, it's the container, and it doesn't really matter too much if it's damaged, unless it's something specific like an antimatter nuke, which of course I dropped seconds after picking up.
Oh, mules. Yeah, honestly, I don't think going too fast will be a problem. I haven't actually crashed a bike yet, so it'll be fine.
No, that's... No! Oh my...
I just said I wasn't gonna crash, Duke. Oh my god.
The more concerning part is, if that container does get destroyed, the item itself can be at harm, which you want to keep down for the client as they often require certain delivery grades, and you want them to be as happy as possible so that they actually join the UCA. This actually drove me to do more and more deliveries, required or not. It was nice to meet and talk to someone in this desolate world, in order to prove to them that we really are here to help and the outside world still has people worth meeting and forming connections with. As a delivery man, we can be a connection to the world after all. You can even feel this as the NPC's move switches from being negative to the side of you.
As far as I'm concerned, all you porters are no better than terrorists. And nothing you say will convince me otherwise. So take your Cupid and fuck off.
To voluntarily messaging you about their lives, sending support your way, showing up in holograms as you travel, and when you do make the time to head back, they'll often show you appreciation by giving you a gift, often a fun aesthetic item, or others actually being incredibly useful unique equipment, making me once again want to deliver their stuff as quickly and highest quality as possible, which is easier said than done, because while preventing yourself from falling is easy once you get the hang of it, our outside factors make things a bit more difficult.
First of all, the environment hates you. Well, the rain does at least. Timefall rain will degrade your gear due to its aging properties, requiring you to use that previously mentioned repair spray or find some shelter to pass some time. However, the rain won't always stop, which puts a bit of a time limit and pressure on you to get going and get those packages to their destinations as soon as possible, especially since Timefall signifies that you might be in BT territory, putting you at risk as well.
That's it. Do your thing.
BTs are completely invisible and will attempt to consume you. When getting spotted, they'll chase you and cause a black tar to encompass a small area, slowing your movement, but also spawning these people in it who will try to drag you down. You can shake them off and try to run away from the zone at the cost of an endurance gauge, but if that gauge runs out, you'll get dragged across the area, which will be filled with this black liquid, shifting environments, and most scarily, a giant boss dedicated to just hunting you down. And if it does catch you, it will consume you and cause a small void out. A crater forming in the map, surrounded by even more deadly BTs that typically one-shot you. I especially love how when they're introduced, it's with that trailer scene where we are caught by BTs and we get to see the results of a void out firsthand, with the city we came to in the beginning, Central Knot City, the capital of the UCA and a giant location, getting completely annihilated, leaving just a series of massive craters.
Once there was an explosion. A bang which gave rise to life as we know it. And then came the next explosion. An explosion that will be our last.
I'll just say it, the first time I experienced this gameplay knowing the stakes, it was genuinely terrifying, making me feel unbelievably stressed to just get out of there as quickly as possible, making me take a moment after it happened to just process that I actually managed to escape. Sam actually does the same, with adrenaline temporarily giving you more stamina, then losing you some of its max amount, resulting in him kinda just looking like a mess, relieved to escape, even if it's just for now. Luckily for him, he also has dooms and is a repatriate. The latter meaning void outs caused by you are smaller, and won't kill you since your soul finds its way back to its body. It's basically the story reason you can come back to life, which is heavily used in it, which we'll touch on later. In gameplay, I just really love how they essentially turn dying then coming back into a mechanic, where you have to manually guide your soul back, under the water, where you can see the waking world above you. Meanwhile, Dooms is a condition that can give you varying levels of powers, from teleporting to controlling BTs themselves. Unfortunately, Sam is quite weak and can only recognize that they're in fact near us. It's our bridge baby that can help us with exact locations. Bridge babies, long story short, are babies pulled from a brain-dead woman known as a still mother's womb, giving them a connection to the other side, allowing them to snitch to us where the BTs actually are via the Ultra deck on Sam's shoulder that will shine blue and do different actions based on how close you are, starting at a spin and a light opening and closing, to more rapid and frantic snapping colored orange as you get closer to a BT. This lets us avoid them to a relatively solid degree. Or, as we learn later on in the story and after unlocking tools based on Sam's blood, which reacts so poorly to BTs, it actually lets us kill them and fight back, which feels pretty amazing, being able to go after the enemies that have been haunting you the almost whole game at that point, actually getting to put your new weapons to use against them, but also nerve-wracking when you don't have the supplies to deal with a particularly large crowd of them, or when you see a new BT type like the giant ones with much more health than standard BTs, or the most scary, burning ones that must be killed via an intense stealth takedown where you gotta feel your way up close then cut their umbilical cord that ties them to this world. Doing this actually even gives you a like from them, since you're freeing them from their pain of being trapped. It's a hard loop to get used to, but once you do, you feel pretty good after you learn to deal with the bigger threats, like going on a stealth spree on the red ones, or even just preparing to wipe out an area of BTs, and then actually pulling it off, only to realize you missed a few and are now out of equipment. I know this game isn't meant to be a stealth action game, but moments like these make you really start to believe that it is, or it can be if you put yourself up to the task. Throughout all of this, no matter what route you choose, you also gotta make sure BB is okay as well, and actually take care of your BB by examining it, then soothing it to reduce its stress level, namely because the BB has to believe it's still in the mother's womb for the bridge to actually work. If that illusion is broken or it's becoming incredibly stressed, its ability to actually detect BTs degrades. And if it hits zeros, known as autotoxemic shock, and becomes sick, it can't help you at all, and must be recalibrated at a private room. I'll just say it and get it out of the way. BB is great, and the relationship that you build with her over time is fantastic. Both narratively, where Sam and others around him start to look at BB as an actual baby to take care of with a valuable life, instead of a piece of equipment to be thrown away when the job is done. Then, as a player who has to work to keep BB happy and make sure they're taken care of, making it feel kinda nice when BB gives you a tap on the shoulder and a thumbs up when doing really good, or when just hearing BB laugh because you did something funny. But BB can also be incredibly frustrating as its stress increases from BT encounters, or even just rough falls, causing it to start wailing and crying until you take care of it, because if you don't, it can actually go all the way down to autotoxemia. But that's harder than it sounds half the time. When falling, it's not a big deal and just a little annoying, making me feel kinda bad for putting it in a stressful situation. But when engaging in the game's combat like boss fights or fighting human enemies, you can't really do much since you're so caught in the moment trying to not die and fight back. Which is actually surprisingly fun to do. Combat really isn't a big focus of this game outside of dealing with BTs as mentioned earlier, but there are plenty of cases where it is unavoidable or necessary, specifically with the big boss BTs or human enemies. When it comes to humans, we have the mules and the homo demons. The demons are basically just the terrorists, while they're both basically the same. The mules are thieves who want to jack your stuff due to an addiction to being a porter, brought on by chiral radiation sickness that led to them start stealing from regular porters and hoarding stuff uncontrollably, but also sometimes delivering equipment, meaning that if you have stuff and go close to their territory, they will relentlessly hunt you down and try to take everything off your back to their camp, using electric prods, spears, and even sticky guns to take you down. It's worth noting, they just want your stuff, so they won't actually kill you, knowing the threat of a BT spawning if they do. So instead they typically just beat you up a bit, but also steer clear of BT territory, since even they aren't crazy enough to try and fight them. You can actually use their nature against them to your benefit if you have nothing and go close to their territory. As long as you avoid their camp, they will typically just leave you alone since you have nothing of value. But I didn't care. I'm a gamer, meaning I wanted to fight them 24/7, which is actually a lot better than you might expect from this game. When fighting human enemies, you have to knock them out or kill them while avoiding the same. You'll pass out if your endurance reaches 0 from taking damage, or die from your health hitting 0 too, meaning automatic healing from blood bags are your friends here. Base, you only really have 2 weapons. Your fists, which honestly didn't do a damn thing, and this strand filled with your blood that you can use as a weapon, letting you hard parry attacks, then tie up your target. Or in stealth, just tie them down immediately. You also gotta keep track of what you have on you before you engage, since your cargo and equipped stuff will make your momentum higher and harder to stop or do quick turns, which you'll need to do often in combat. You also don't want to get stuck with your pants down, literally in some cases, by having the wrong thing equipped or nothing at all. You don't feel like the most lethal thing, but as you go on, you will eventually unlock non-lethal and lethal guns, turning the game into a bit of a shooter if you want it to be, as you stop the mules right in their tracks with a hail of gunfire, which feels really good after pacifying a camp, then hearing that alarm die off. After which you can then raid their place for all of their loot, which is usually an abundance of everything, while simultaneously making the area safe for friendly NPC porters to traverse. Even without all of this, the combat theme alone makes fighting these guys more than worth it. Just listen to this Deus Ex sounding OST. Terrorists, in the meanwhile, aren't too different besides a crazy good theme as well. They want your stuff, but this time aren't afraid to kill for it. Often armed with lethal firearms, explosives, and a really cool outfit. This does bring up the topic of killing in self-defense. Everyone will tell you not to do it, since humanity is dying out as it is, and they will become a BT if you don't burn their body. Even BB will become horrified if you kill people, so it's typically worth avoiding if possible. But if you do fight, make sure to deal with them swiftly and far away from BTs as possible, since consuming a mule, porter, or homo demon will cause a void out, damaging your world for a time. As much as I did just glaze combat, it's not exactly perfect with a couple of problems. First of all, It can be pretty frustrating at times due to how the momentum system works, causing you to overshoot things or not turn fast enough. Most annoyingly was with melee sometimes feeling like it just didn't want to work when I wanted it to parry. The AI is also really stupid, with brains so cooked by radiation they just cannot comprehend that you can be hiding in front of them where all of the bullets are coming from like this. Oh my god, this is the hardest difficulty. Oh, this is the hardest difficulty and this is the AI. Oh my god. You aren't even trying. Oh my god. The bigger issue does actually come with the big BTs, which are all usually tied to the narrative, which makes the fact that they suck positively horrible, due to the weapons you use being tied to blood. Normal BT encounters, it's not a big deal, and is often fun, but in boss fights, it's a total pain in the ass, because I often unloaded into bosses only to run out of blood or equipment due to their ginormous health bars, leading to me being forced to wait, annoyed for the multiplayer support system to throw me more stuff so I could actually go back to playing the game. But then there are segments with a very important story character called the Combat Veteran, where it takes you to different war zones of different eras, fighting him and skeletal soldiers, allowing you to use full lethal equipment and tactics like guns blazing or stealth, displaying once again that this game can actually be a really good third-person shooter if it wants to be, as it felt great to plan an ambush with nades, then go through a whole phase in seconds. I'm sure when people actually say combat is bad or it's not good or not fun, this is what they're talking about, because it really became incredibly difficult to deal with and often frustrating at times. With this game having one of the few bosses that actually made me just quit the game after I beat it because I just couldn't be bothered to play anymore because it was so frustrating. And that's coming from a Souls player who usually doesn't give up that fast. I like to complete bosses, then usually just keep playing for a little bit. And I'm actually realizing when writing this that this was actually the longest I've ever talked about gameplay in any of my videos. Because to be honest, this gameplay is really that good. Yeah, it's a little slow in the beginning and does have problems, but once you have all of these systems and learn to properly use them naturally, this game kinda transcends genres, becoming really its own thing. And no, I will not use what Kojima wants us to call it. Personally, even without a narrative and interesting characters, I would probably still love this game due to how it can go from relaxing to intense on a moment's notice. Just gameplay alone makes Death Stranding unique in a way that you probably won't ever get again or anywhere else outside of its sequel. Hell, I personally have a hard time finishing games even for this channel sometimes, but here I was just so sucked in by everything, I kept wanting to play more, wanting to do more for the people I've met in this world, like I have a real connection to them. Even after beating the game and writing this, I realized I still have the urge to play more, even though I thought I was content with what I finished. Elden Ring, for example, couldn't even hold me that hard, with me still slowly making my way through it. If there was a way to describe how this game truly feels, it would definitely be complete. Sure, things might feel weird, like combat, which may be a fact I played it on the hardest difficulty because I hate myself, but the game really feels like it knew what it wanted to be, did it, and isn't sorry for it. I have a massive amount of respect for that. And needless to say, if you haven't played this game, you really need to, because it's about time we talked about Death Stranding's less to more controversial parts we've sprinkled bits into as we've discussed this game. Death Stranding's rather long but fantastic narrative and characters, which I think you really should experience if you haven't, so if you want to, please leave and go buy this game. If you want to stay, thanks, and let's get into it. Although a quick note, if you're looking for an in-depth 12-hour story analysis, this isn't quite that, but we're getting closer now that I'm looking at the script again. We will hit big notes with characters, presentation, but also of course the main plot points because the story managed to get me hooked still. While we discuss the beginning of the game and our whys before getting to the journey, there's a big thing I need to discuss that I hate that this game does.
Didn't mean to grab you so hard.
tears. A chiral allergy. So, you have dooms, like me.
I've got the extinction factor, but I think you got me beat.
What's your level? You can see them, right?
No, but I can sense them.
Level 2, then.
Yeah, that. Exposition is often needed when telling a story, especially when it's something as absurd as this. But when Kojima games usually have really raw dialogue that feels almost real despite the crazy crap characters say, this game feels really exposition-y. Take the 2 opening scenes I showed off, for example. In both, Sam is talked to about his condition openly to his face, which seems incredibly rude.
Igor, Bridges Corpse Disposal. Sam Porter, I presume? Right. Not the touchy-feely type. Document said you had some kind of phobia.
Bridges Corpse Disposal? What happened?
Look, gotta get a move on. I'll explain as we go.
This stencil is from when you repatriated? What's the other mark from?
A clingy woman in a cave.
I see. Aphenphosmphobia. No wonder you were out there alone, where no one could touch you. I'll try to be more careful, Sam.
My first reaction to it being, oh, why the hell are they just saying it like this directly to his face? He knows this already. You don't have to explain what's wrong with him, just say sorry or something and leave it be. Then there's this scene with Igor, the guy who's part of the crew that gets ambushed by BTs. Most of this conversation is talked from Sam as if he knows what's going on in this world, because he lives in it. Meanwhile, Igor says things that he should and does already know.
It was different when I was a kid. America was a country. Anybody could go anywhere they damn well pleased. No need for couriers like yourself. We had highways, airplanes. Hell, you could even visit other countries. Hard to imagine it now. As you can see, the Death Stranding poked us full of holes. Fucked us beyond all recognition. And if you were lucky enough to survive, the timefall came and washed you away. Then those freaks from the beach showed up. Worlds of the living and the dead all mixed together. And that's when folks started holing up in the cities. Couriers like yourself got put up on a pedestal.
Sam's been doing this job for a decade at this point. You don't have to say these things to him, he knows what he's doing. It may seem nitpicky given these are at the beginning of the game, but this happens a lot and really annoys me to so many degrees, even after getting used to it, because of how disjointing it can sometimes feel. You can kind of explain this off with a story reason. People are so disconnected in this world that just getting to talk to a normal person living in the flesh is something they can't stop doing due to a want to form a connection. So they'll just say whatever comes to mind. A cop-out maybe, but worth considering given the state of things. Character naming conventions are also a little odd, but not the worst, with the intro getting a bit of the worst of it out of the way, with Deadman, Fragile, Hartman, and Mama all being semi-reasonable Kojima names, but Die Hard Man being so stupid that it made me unable to take him serious for almost 2/3 of the game. Additionally, there are a lot of famous people who made cameos in this game like Jeff Keighley, Junji Ito, and Conan O'Brien, which upon seeing made me react in a way. Is that Conan O'Brien?
Sam Bridges!
No way!
Welcome to our summer home!
Honestly, it's kind of cool to see these type of people in the game, and normally it wouldn't be an issue I have. I wouldn't even mind or note it. But knowing Kojima, these are most definitely just his cool friends he wanted to put in the game, which made it a little bit funny to me. Anyways, before we embark on our journey proper from Capital Knot City, we are given a few things and give a few things for Bridges to look into. Namely, our strand that has our melee weapon, but also ID. If you asked me, this seems like a really dumb way to keep track of a person, but I digress. Sam also asks Deadman to look into the fact the BTs from earlier really didn't like his blood. When attempting to leave and linking up with BB for our first time, after our initial encounters with BTs and the whole void out thing, Sam is given a glimpse into BB's memories, where we see a man who looks very familiar. It's BB's father, who's very, very frantic.
I'm sorry, Lisa.
take care of him. I promise you. Baby. Baby. Baby, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Steady.
Getting jolted out of the memory, we learn that memory trading isn't actually normal. It's a very unique case, theorized by Deadman to be due to Sam's dooms, interacting with the bridge you're forming with the baby, meaning you'll see a lot of these throughout the game. And honestly, these segments were some of my favorite, due to the fact they're just so raw and human, lacking the wild terminology and absurdness of the outside world. Just a man trying to show his brain-dead wife and bottled child love in the best way he possibly can, giving us a lot of really sweet moments.
You know what day it is today, baby? Today would be a very special day if your mommy hadn't. You're not born yet. But the more candles, the merrier, right? Soon it'll be time for you to come out into the real world. I promise. And then, we can have a real party. Well, happy birthday.
Genuinely making me think that someone else wrote these segments, because while I love the charm of Kojima's writings, they can be a bit too ridiculous at times, making me have a hard time believing he actually managed to do this. The first step to connecting America is to connect our surrounding areas near Capital Knot City, the new capital after Central Knot was destroyed due to the void out at the beginning of the game. Getting along and delivering vital supplies to each station, we see that they're reasonably kinda sad and lonely, with each bridge's facility and city housing plenty of people who were left behind and never supported due to the incident at Edge Knot City. They are relatively jaded by being left behind, but are nevertheless still happy to see we're finally here, connecting them to the network, so they can actually be connected to society in one way or another. It's especially helpful for their mental health, since you rarely get to actually see a person in the flesh, with them often being interacted via hologram, despite how much they love you. After a bit of delivering packages, then getting the distro center online, Sam's gotta put BB back in the incubator as the stress has started to get to it. Deadman explains the connection to us that we mentioned before, but also 2 nuggets of info. While BBs are still babies, it's encouraged to think of them as equipment, but to also not get too attached, since if necessary, they will be disposed of. Information has also been basically destroyed from most of our past, including BB data, meaning no one really knows how they work, they just kinda do. Sam, rather reasonably, would like to know more, since Deadman is the expert, but he also doesn't know too much, vowing to tell us if he does learn something. Sam is then given a bit of alone time, which is interrupted almost immediately in the shower by Hartman, who's researching Sam and his blood, in hopes to learn more about the Death Stranding as a whole, before he passes out, so Sam goes to sleep. In sleep, he's approached by Amelie once again, begging him to complete the mission and come find her. Not just for her sake, but for the people of America, as everyone is suffering due to the Death Stranding stressing out everyone to the point of locking themselves away, resulting in poor mental health, but also an asexual population in decline, which this chiral network can allegedly fix. Continuing to work on more tasks such as connecting the remaining facilities in the area, collecting some ore, and dealing with the mules, we are tasked with returning to Capital Knot to test some weapons based on Sam's blood. Making that journey a little bit easier is the first vehicle we're ever given, the Reverse Strike, a weak but quick little bike that makes travel much easier. Later in the game, travel by vehicles is what you'll want to do for the most part to make your life easier, but it's not something you can do all the time. Testing our new hermetic weapons, we can actually kill BTs and recover the crystals they drop, making Sam the first human in history to kill a BT. Rather reasonably, Command's excited, wanting to get this out to everyone, with Port Knot City being the first to receive a big shipment. I do worry for Sam, despite how good this is. Like how much blood does this man have, and how much will they take? Port Knot is the farthest we have to go in this journey so far, but with new weapons, it's not the worst thing in the world. Even though we can handle ourselves, Die Hardman tells us something everyone needs to hear at least once in their lives.
Sam, Having Dooms gives you advantages most folks don't have. But as capable as you are, you're also a member of Bridges now. An organization filled with experts in a whole variety of fields, all of whom are ready and willing to help. The team is here for you, Sam. All you have to do is ask. Got it? Good.
We may be skilled. We may not need people to help us. But even if we aren't aware, there are people who care for us that are willing to help if we ever need it. Don't just not talk to people to avoid connection like Sam has been doing for the past years, with not a single person he could really call a friend. Now is the time to really make some real connections with people. Finally reaching Port Knot with this gorgeous view, we connect them to the network, meeting the head of the department, who's the brother of Igor, the guy who got eaten in the beginning with us. Bonding a little bit over Bibi, who we recognize via the spaceman Nendoroid charm Bibi has in the container, before Amelie asks us to keep going now that we're making decent progress. A sign that humanity might be able to reclaim what we lost, including sea travel, which we must take now. However, what she says here kinda scares me.
The rest of America is waiting, Sam. Waiting for you to take the first step and connect them to the chiral network. I know you can reach them. Make us whole again.
Yeah, this had me personally thinking she was the big bad guy from this point, just because I've heard "make us whole again" too much from crazy people trying to kill me already. Before taking a quick break, we are told that luckily rain never happens here, so we're safe, but also the courier operating the boats is Fragile Express, operated and owned by the one and only Fragile herself. After our rest, we get glorious Santa Mads Mikkelsen, before we probably get one of the coolest character intros ever.
The name's Higgs, the particle of God that permeates all existence.
This is Higgs, a character with an awesome design, played amazingly by Troy Baker, who, while I like, I'm a bit tired of seeing him everywhere. Higgs flexes his muscles a bit to us, summoning the Timefall while using powers we've never seen before, but also showing that he knows Fragile. He knows what happens to the president, with him even casting doubt on what we know about Amelie as well with this comment.
You see, I've come to understand the truth of the Death Stranding. Oh, there's so much you people don't know. The girl, for instance, she's not like you or me. Dooms ain't her thing. And she's more into destruction on a worldwide scale. An extinction entity.
An extinction entity. A first time this word will come up, but Sam doesn't have time to really think about its implications. With Higgs' first real display of power, his connection to the other side is so powerful that he can have Kojima speak through him to chastise the player.
How about it? Aren't you getting tired of the grind? Isn't this what you've been waiting for this whole time? Again.
Oh, that's not real dialogue. I can't be real dialogue. I'm sorry, I mean, he can summon a giant BT larger than we've ever seen before. A single void out here will wipe out Port Knot City, meaning Sam needs to clear his first boss fight in this ever-shifting Tarfield arena. Truthfully, this and most BT bosses kinda suck because of the blood economy and massive health bars, although, like I said, This could totally be a result of me hating myself and playing on the hardest difficulty. But you still only have one weapon at this point, the hermetic grenade. But eventually, after a metric shit ton of grenades, it goes down. I won't lie, even if the combat and Higgs' writing here kinda sucked, this was absolutely the high point of the game at this point, with the beginning being admittedly a little boringly slow, but now being teased with actual supernatural powers you saw in all the trailers. Post-boss is also narratively a little weird. For instance, Hartman acts like you for the first time have killed a BT, when we've already killed smaller ones before, making what he's saying a little odd, but also the game's whole not having a lot of real people becomes weird again. Namely, we just battled an insane BT, which we killed, and no one comes to check out what happened? Not even the security we sometimes see in holograms? The only person who even bothers to come out and actually see Sam is Fragile, who lets out the nugget of info that she knew and worked with Higgs at one point.
Seems like you know a lot about him.
Used to work together. Guess you could say we had a contract.
You did business with terrorists? Whoever pays, huh?
He wasn't like that back then.
So what's your angle? You want to save the world, or you want to fuck it all up like him?
She's not happy, with Sam seeming to hit a bit of a sensitive point. Although, during the ride, when seeing his old photo of what appears to be a pregnant woman and the president being very close to him, it causes her to open up a little. Unfortunately for her, Sam passed out, hard, being transported to Amelie's beach during his dreams, where she shows him what he used to be like when he was a kid, spending time with her on the beach. Not wanting to go home, but also not being able to. Something she admits is only possible if you have a body. And since hers is on the beach, she's still stuck here. Sam is then pulled out of his slumber by the ship's arrival in Lake Knot City, to the most empty dock ever of all time. Fragile has business, so she's gotta leave, leaving us to go and connect the city, but are also given a whole new very long task. Connect the entire area to the chiral network, including the preppers that left the cities. This is a difficult task for a very large reason we can still see the results of.
When we first came through, it was different. Peaceful. The 3 cities out there, Lake, Middle, and South Knot, were all on board with our plans for reconstruction. Fragile Express was contracted by all 3 and kept supplies moving and people connected. But that all changed a year ago, when the Separatists carried out their attacks. One took out Middle Knot City. They detonated nukes from the old days. Half of South Knot City went up in the other. Casualties were devastating.
This entire area is where the Separatists kinda went nuts, destroying almost half of the cities out here. With that info, it's no surprise people don't want to be part of the UCA, especially since if they couldn't protect us twice, can they really be trusted a third time? Lucky for Sam and us, we have an in via Fragile Express, allowing us at least to make first contact with them. Before we head out, she even flexes her muscles a little bit, showing her powers and explaining that everyone has their own beach. Hers just lets her travel to others or locations. She agrees to let Sam use this power for fast travel or whatever he needs, as long as he helps her hunt down and deal with Higgs, since he's the reason Fragile Express and its reputation has fallen apart. Sam says he'll consider it, but tells her blatantly he's no killer, just a FEDEX man, before taking a nap. Once again, Amelie pulls Sam into her beach to show us an old event, with young Sam giving her a quipu he made for her, an old Inca tool which means knot used to store information. In this case, it's Sam's friends. She likely shows him this to make him understand why the cities are called knots. But also this event is something she cherishes so much, she adopted the knot naming scheme. This is all building up for something big, and truthfully I got really excited, but this entire section after this kinda kills the story's pacing. You gotta connect most of the preppers in the area before you can actually get to the 2 big cities. They have varying levels of tolerance of the UCA, but they're also fragile, resulting in most of them requiring difficult tasks or a higher volume of deliveries to get them into the network. Some of these tasks are simple time deliveries, like medicine to save the older man, or to prove yourself to the craftsman who lost everything to the destruction of Middle Knot. These tasks did take a while, which gives a lot of insight into Fragile while you do them. Namely that most of the preppers here are really sketched out by Fragile due to her relationship with Higgs. Namely, they built Fragile Express together, which turned really bad when the Homo demons made their attacks, with essentially full control over the supply lines. Some people consider her a hero, while others can't shake the fact that there's at least a relationship there. Regardless of what they think, you can eventually convince them to join by doing a ton of their deliveries. This is admittedly where I came to love changing everyone's opinions by delivering stuff to make them happy, and I did basically all of them for some of the preppers, even if the story's pacing was slowed to a halt, with all of the really slow content here, such as building the highway. Eventually, after slaving away, Sam is contacted by Bridges to recover a stolen server that will allow delivery automation to be made then tested, something everyone including Die Hardman are pretty excited for. But before properly heading out, Sam decides to ask about Higgs and Fragile's relationship, since everyone has been talking smack about her. Personally, Die Hardman doesn't really care as long as she's working against Higgs now, with him just giving us another delivery instead. The prototype delivery bot parts meant to go to the distribution center. Luckily, it's convenient for us and Fragile, since she wants to meet us there so she can tell us in person about what's going on. Reaching the center, Sam delivers the bots, which Mama explains how to use. They can be deployed and deliver the content all by themselves, with the roads or pacified areas greatly helping them since they aren't exactly good at keeping the damage low. The trade-off to this is since they're machines, they are perfect for a dangerous job like that. So what if a terrorist kills them where they get consumed by a BT? It's just a robot, there's nothing to cause a void out or make a new BT. Plus you can always send another one, not needing to put an actual individual in danger. While Die Hardman and the distribution team are excited about this, since this is how things used to be done before the Death Stranding, there's also a bit of concern. Namely, we're still in the Death Stranding, which caused people to want human porters in the first place. It's already hard enough in the cities to connect with new people, so putting a human touch into the thing that connects the cities in the first place really means a lot to people. Just look at how friendly the preppers become after delivering to them. Some of these people would have never joined the outer world again without you being there. Automation just removes this touch on an already lonely society. Getting to bed after sending out some bots, Sam is shaken awoken by a nightmare, but also Fragile taking a shower in his room where we can see her whole body is aged horribly. This startles Sam, which is fair, after all, who just takes a shower in a room designed like this without asking or a warning. Truth be told, I don't know what's more confusing here, the fact she did that or got dressed into dry clothes while in the shower. Sam kind of blows it off by asking what she came here for.
Look, I gotta ask. I've been hearing things about you.
She's in bed with terrorists. Don't trust her. She's just another dumbass Higgs fucked over. She's a goddamn hero, that woman. Tell me, Sam, what does America mean to you? Way my dad made it sound. We were something special. The glue that held it all together. More than a nation. A symbol of freedom and hope. We could bring it all back if we kept on making deliveries and connecting people. He was sure of it. I was a wreck after he died. That's when Higgs made his pitch. Together, we can run packages from sea to shining sea. Back then, he had a monopoly west of here. We both stood to gain a lot from a partnership. Business was pretty good at first. But then, a year ago, when those fanatics started stirring up trouble, fuckers hijacked our system. Somehow, they got a hold of our security passes and used them to sneak into cities. And just like that, we're delivering guns and bombs instead of medicine, and I didn't even know. We were just cogs in a terrorist machine. Higgs was behind it all. And on top of that, he got his hands on an old-school nuke that I ended up carrying right into Middle Knot City.
You tell me then?
Yeah. It was me. I blew it up.
She doesn't really care anymore about the US or Bridges. She just wants to get back at Higgs no matter what. hopefully fixing her and her father's legacy in Fragile Express. This is actually very similar to why Sam is even here in the first place. He, like her, doesn't actually care. He just wants to help his unitologist sister out. Connecting with BB on the way out, Sam is given another glimpse into a frantic Mads. A confusing episode that even Deadman can't explain after all the connections we made, with BB-28's info blocked out almost completely. After this, we make a couple more deliveries, connecting a weather station and even a farm that genuinely uses timefall to its advantage to grow crops quickly, showing that even in an absolutely devastating situation like a Death Stranding, people will find a way to make some money or make life a little bit easier. We are then tasked with making it back to the distro center, but not before some more time with Mads trying to enjoy the time with his wife the best he can on her birthday. Another great scene, kinda ruined by the next segment, which I actually think is the worst in the game. We need to get a few more preppers on the network. Nothing crazy different with that outside of Conan O'Brien, but one in particular known as the junk dealer is absolutely the worst subplot in this entire experience. I wish they just cut it. Long story short, before part of South Knot was destroyed, his wife, the chiral artist, died, making him hide here in his junkyard, not wanting to associate with the UCA while blaming Fragile. But we need him, so we need to deal with his annoying tasks and tone, which he's very, very rude about, which is kind of fair.
As far as I'm concerned, all you porters are no better than terrorists. And nothing you say will convince me otherwise. So take your Cupid and fuck off.
But Fragile lets us know his wife is actually alive, so he has us deliver something she made that she would recognize. Needing to carry the object by hand, kinda tiring your fingers since it's a bit of a distance. Getting to her studio, you learn his wife's mom lied about him dying since she really just didn't like him. The chiral artist asks us to take her to him, with hands down the worst voice acting in the entire game, like Yang Yeah bad.
My mother never liked him. She made that pretty clear. But I didn't think she'd go as far as to lie. So when she said that he died, I believed her. Until I heard that message. It's him. It's really him. I should never have given up. Deep down, I knew he was out there somewhere.
Taking her to the junk dealer, he's happy, joins, then they get married. I get that this was trying to show in this world love and having a connection with people is incredibly important, and that the Death Stranding ruined communication to where people a state away couldn't even be aware they're still alive, but because the game makes the states very small for gameplay reasons, it feels like she's kind of just in his backyard. I wouldn't have minded this subplot if it didn't kill the pacing of this entire area and feel totally unneeded. But the only good parts of this were you can finally get to see a real person, who I didn't like, and his messages after are kinda funny. After the slop, we finally have to make contact with South Knot City, needing to bring them a ton of supplies, with us able to make a stop at the distro center to chat with Fragile, who's also having a couple problems. Only for the system to have an error, which a Bridges team member helps resolve.
Unable to process order. Unable to process order. Please stand by until the problem can be rectified.
Oh, hi. Sam, Bridges, I presume? Sorry about that. The system seems to be on the fritz. One of the packages wasn't processed properly and got left out of the order. It says here the client is Fragile herself. Someone double-tagged it so the system couldn't tell whether it's for Fragile Express or Bridges. Anywho, really sorry for the holdup, and careful. The contents are fragile. It's okay.
You may fool Sam, but not me, Higgs. I can sadly recognize Troy Baker anywhere. Meanwhile, Sam doesn't really make the connection, which is fair since he's only really met Higgs once, not really thinking much is going on with Fragile's package, which is Really stupid, considering if you read the package, it just tells you it's a nuke, and that Fragile needs to know. It's kinda dumb he doesn't realize till reaching the distro center and napping on it, but luckily Fragile's slightly more smart here, telling us to go dispose of the nuke in the massive tar pit near South Knot City. If you got a car, it's pretty easy to get there in under a minute or two. I do think this would have been a better reveal if Kojima didn't decide to just tell us it's a nuke, and especially the fact it's a nuke that we dispose of in a tar pit like this? Yeah, that wouldn't work. I have zero clue what Kojima's smoking to make him think that this would, but you know what, Death Stranding requires you to smoke a little something, so I'll let it slide for now. After the scare, we visit safely within the likely radiation zone to have a real talk with Fragile. She explains that Higgs, after having her deliver the nuke to Middle Knot, caught her trying to get another nuke out of South Knot to prevent its destruction, giving her the choice of save yourself by teleporting out, but letting the nuke destroy the city, or giving up her body to the rain in order to save them. An actually great and kinda intense scene that I'll admit that's once again kinda ruined by some really cringy dialogue. I can get behind a couple delivery jokes, but not in important scenes like these.
Because I'm fragile, but I'm not that.
It kinda cheapens the experience, especially when it's followed by a great scene where she admits she didn't want to do it, while Sam honestly admits that she's a hero. A really sweet moment of Sam kinda finally forming a bond with someone while he's been shutting people out the whole game. When people say they hate the writing, it's because of these puns that make it hard to ignore. Unfortunately, we don't have all the time in the world, eventually having to get back to it and reach South Knot City, the exact middle of our journey west. They're incredibly grateful for Sam saving them, being more than happy to join the network, rewarding us with guns.
Why'd you give me this fucking thing? I thought this was airsoft.
Yeah, this totally isn't going to be the sign of a boss. Well, shit. World War I. Gunfire, distant explosions, skeletal soldiers, fleshy tanks, creepy-ass baby dolls. and a familiar man. Yeah, this is what I was waiting for. If the past 6 hours was a slow slog, this area kicks the weird factor and pace up to 11, with us transported to a whole nother dimension, or more accurately, a war-torn beach, commanded by the familiar soldier.
What's wrong? I can't remember. Where am I? Right here.
He's all out of whack at the moment, seemingly trying to pull himself together and just remember what's going on in the first place, with the only thing he knows for real being that he can rely on his skeletal soldiers. Soldiers that we have to fight through in the game's first really good combat segment, allowing you to try out your new kit, with the soldiers playing close to each other in the trenches, but being aggressive with their rifles and shotguns, even gassing you out or nicking you with mounted machine guns if you try to go over the trenches. This segment was honestly super fun, and a fantastic highlight that kind of showed me that if this game wants to be, it can be a really decent third-person action game, especially since you can actually use normal bullets and not have to worry about the blood economy. With my only problem with this area being, you do have to beat him about 4 times before you're let out. Truth be told, I think 3 or 2 harder ones would have been better, but I digress. With us being able to deuce off of this scene, he wants his BB back. Easily this part was the highlight of the game at this point, especially when Sam realizes upon return, he was only gone for a few seconds, with Mama, who we're supposed to visit, not being super confident he's actually telling the truth or even okay. Reaching her, we find out exactly why she's called Mama.
Sam. She doesn't bite. Glad you made it.
Her baby died during childbirth, tethering its BT to Mama, albeit resulting in it being relatively passive, just making BB a little bit alarmed. Her condition was caused by the Separatists' attack on South Knot a few years back while she was in the maternity ward, carrying her sister and her husband's child, due to their inability to give birth on her own. Unfortunately, she gave birth in the rubble that she was barely able to get out of herself, trapped for days. It's honestly a horrific, traumatizing fate that she's dealing with, being not only mentally tethered to the trauma of the past, but physically by her baby BT acting like a baby, in addition to a BT trying to pull it to the other side, constantly reminding her of what happened, not letting her let go of the past. While here, she verifies our story with cufflinks, but also warns us of something kinda bad. Our Kipu we've been using to link up everything to the chiral network is causing it to become unstable, enough to potentially cause another Death Stranding. Luckily, she's got us a new one, but in a kinda bad design choice, the software was made by someone else far away in Mountain Knot City. This person was Mama's twin, Lochna. A set of twins with such an odd bond, they could feel what the other was, while knowing what each other were thinking for the most part, almost like they were one person. Reaching Mountain Knot, however, is a little bit problematic, as it's, unsurprisingly, in the mountains. Very, very, very large mountains. This means we need to take the long route by reconnecting the way station, distro center, then finally the city, going right through terrorist territory along the way. And they aren't just having a fun campout over there, since we learned when linking up to the way station, someone was actually attacked by them, getting hurt to critical condition, and they need meds urgently. Luckily, you can just take your bike or truck to speed through them, getting through there fairly quickly to save them, giving us a bit of a break in their distro center before heading up into the mountains, where we see Amelie on her beach again, Higgs capturing then stabbing her with his Karambit lore stat track.
Dick Pattern Huntsman! Dick Pattern Huntsman! That's the code Pattern Huntsman!
Just getting warmed up.
Yes!
She urges us awake before frantically explaining that Edge Knot's gone, with BTs and terrorists occupying the area.
Amelie!
Higgs and his people came. They finally reached Edgenaught City. There's no escape for me now. Everyone's dead, the city's destroyed, and what's left is crawling with BTs. They're everywhere.
Where's your Kipu?
But I was able to sneak away and reach out to you. This might be our last chance to talk like this. I just wanted you to know that I'm safe. For now. Promise me you'll keep building the chiral network. It's our only hope for the future. It's my only hope for freedom. And when you've finished, we can go back east together.
Amelie, your Kipu, where is it?
Sam, I'll be waiting for you on the beach.
Getting to Mountain Knot City, they aren't exactly enthused to see us, with Lochna straight up not allowing us to connect them at all. A result Die Hardman says to not take personally, since it's not to Sam. It's the fact she still thinks Bridges is responsible for Mama's death, even though she's still alive, making our mission obvious but unfun. Go grab Mama to bring her back here, requiring us to go over the mountain, a difficult terrain you can eventually get through with enough determination. Reaching her lab, she's brought us a new tool, cufflinks with the chiral knife, pointing very dangerously towards our wrist. This is the tool that lets you cut BT umbilical cords directly, a valuable weapon you can go crazy with enough practice. Our first target is actually Mama's baby, setting her free so she can go with us. An actually really sad and emotional moment that made me burst out laughing due to the kill the baby QuickTime event.
This game is not real.
Sam. Take me home to Lochna.
Unluckily for us and Sam, the journey isn't just as simple as get Mama over the mountain again, since Higgs was just waiting out there for us, spawning the boss that gave me the most trouble, because on hard at least, there are a solid 3 bosses, making this a total Dark Souls 2 gankfest. It's honestly not too difficult with you being able to avoid it, but still jarring when I'm basically just stuck playing a cover shooter for almost 10-15 minutes. Eventually, after either driving all the way around or the path of most resistance, which I took, we get Mama to her sister. Mama, unfortunately as a result of cutting her baby BT, is dying, telling Lochna to help us and not be mad since it was her choice to hide the sad truth from her, not just running away with the child like she thought. But even we don't actually have the full truth. As Lochna explains, Mama was already dead. Her Ka, that being her soul, left her body, known as her Ha. The baby was actually just tying her to a soulless dead body. Something I didn't even notice at first was the BT that wanted her back has a ponytail and glasses just like Mama, probably being her soul wanting her baby back. Connecting Mountain Knot to the system after Lochna fixes the issue, Mama's soul joins with Lochna's body just like when they were conjoined at birth, with one eye changing to Mama's color. They now never have to be alone with 2 souls in one body, with both being able to use it whenever they want. They aren't one person, but they also aren't 2. There's something in between, with Lochna even replacing Mama's role in the story 1 for 1. This is supposed to be a sweet moment since they wanted this, I think, but in my mind, this is kinda creepy, with it almost feeling like they lost their individuality in some way. Somehow, this once again isn't the biggest crisis. The real one comes when we go rest, where Deadman brings some awful news. BB is failing, mainly because it's growing up, becoming more aware, making memories, becoming an actual baby, not just a piece of equipment, which Sam doesn't mind too much, even seeming to like the idea now that he's kind of attached to BB, despite Deadman telling him not to. But there is a bigger problem. With its failure outside of becoming a real child, if it fails, not only will it not work, but also has a chance to straight up die. Meaning, Deadman needs to take BB and wipe its memories, and by extension, its connection to us, so it can be set up with the other side again. Sam is hesitant to let BB go due to the memory issue, causing a slight scuffle that results in BB pissing on Deadman, which he uses to his advantage, dragging us into the shower.
No one can spy on us in here. It's just you and me. No audio records of what we say. No video for lip reading analysis. Get closer. Die Hardman cannot know of this. Understood? I've been doing some digging into the first BB experiments. Officially, they were suspended by the government following a void out which claimed the life of the then acting president. Documents were shredded. BB technology banned, yes? But obviously, the experiments continued in secret on the direct orders of President Strand.
Bridget?
The BBs were essential to solving the mystery of the Death Stranding. Oh, she had big plans for them. They weren't designed just to be BT detectors. She wanted to incorporate them into the chiral network to facilitate travel to the beach. But none of her plans ever came to fruition. And now BB Tech has fallen into terrorist hands.
What's Die Hardman's part in this?
I'm afraid to find out. I don't know how long he was working for Strand. I don't even know his real name or his face. I thought you might, since you two go further back.
He was already wearing the mask when I met him. Something about burning his face.
Right. Sorry. Any data we have from back then is classified at the highest level. As far as I know, the director is the only one with clearance. But the chiral network presents a new opportunity. By compiling fragmented data in the public domain from all across the country, I might be able to piece together a little more of the puzzle. Be careful, Sam. They're watching.
Die Hardman can't be trusted? That's at least what Deadman thinks, given the nature of the BB experiments. He had to at least know something. We can't know for sure, but he intends to dig deeper while we fix BB. Yes, because for some reason, connecting the other preppers in the area will allegedly fix BB. Don't ask why, because it really doesn't make any sense to me outside of gameplay reasons. Like, if we just need the density, just take it back to a more chirally dense area. Especially since distance itself from us is important. So, that means most of this part of the game will be in the snowy mountains, the most difficult environment. Doubly so, now that for a while, you won't have BB to help you. You can make this section easier for yourself in 3 ways, before and while going out. One is to get the backpack cover from the collector, which makes your life so much easier since snowfall makes things degrade very fast, with repair spray hardly even working. The all-terrain skeleton from the roboticist is just the best skeleton and never came off due to it making everything easier without providing speed or carry buffs. And lastly, which was probably the dumbest, was carrying a metric ton of grenades to throw at your feet so you can just run past BTs. It's not the prettiest way to do it, but it worked. The only really notable story things to happen during this is Deadman having fun with BB, getting a bit attached to it himself, while the data the preppers have of cave paintings make Hartman believe a Death Stranding has happened before at least one time. Getting to the last prepper, way high in the mountains as a whiteout hits us with absurdly intense conditions, making it hard to see or even just walk in a straight line, even after getting the high-level all-terrain skeletons. This is a scripted event, but I really wish these kind of things happen more, because it was honestly really cool to get all the way up there through this. To be fair, this is tied narratively to the chiral density, which has gotten Deadman stuck in a cabin up high with BB's complete procedure, thinking it'd be easier to get to us. The soldier, however, has a different plan. this time dragging us a bit forward in time from the last, going to World War II, with Deadman stuck in here with us hiding from our main man in the sewers. This was honestly really cool to see since it was literally just the trailer scene, which back then I thought showed way too much, but actually being here it doesn't spoil anything besides Mads being the soldier making an obvious connection. After waking back up, we talk with Deadman, where he explains he's hiding in the sewers, but also trauma dumps a little.
Sam, it's not easy being me. No wife, no children, no friends. And so I sought solace, sought company in the dead. Over time, I made them a part of me, 70% of who I am today. But meeting you has opened my eyes. You're very special, Sam.
Who would have thought Deadman is actually made up with the dead? Given we obviously don't have time for this, we make it through the active battlefield to reach Deadman, where he's actually pretty attached to BB now, even accepting that Lou is his name like Sam. The soldier himself, before we fight him, seems to be a bit more pulled together than last time, now just obsessed with finding his BB, and this time reinforced by significantly more advanced soldiers, who deploy automatic weapons as well as rocket launchers now. With actually upgraded weapons and learning to use blood nades for double damage, this section is a great shooter, with me smoking them in one ambush sometimes. When downing him for the 4th time, he talks directly to BB, blaming himself for its state and vowing to rescue it. But before we are pulled out, we manage to pull his dog tags. The same tags Mads has in the memories we see. Once again, waking up from a nightmare. Yeah, this happens a lot to push the narrative forward. Deadman is here for us, and BB elaborating a bit on what we actually experienced in addition to an apology. Apologizing directly about how Sam named BB after Lou, his dead child whose mother died with him 10 years ago in a void out caused by her death, leaving only Sam alive due to him being a repatriate, leading to him and Bridges taking the heat since he was a member at the time, bringing us to the beginning of the game 10 years later after he cut all ties, becoming a porter. I won't lie, when first hearing this, before the next part, I was shocked Deadman said this. While yes, it's true, it is kinda crazy to just go up to someone and explain it like this. I know this is for our exposition, but this just feels kinda weird. To be fair, it was because he wanted to confront him in order to connect, with Deadman explaining he's a Frankenstein's monster, a person born in a jar then made up of dead people's organs and body parts, but no soul for himself, no beach. He could never connect with people because of it. It even led to his obsession with beaches. Even just meeting Sam was a good thing for him, as he's the first person he can say he really feels a connection with, explaining that even though Sam feels like no one wants him at Bridges, like there's no space for him, if there is space for a person like Deadman, there's one for Sam. Before heading out, he at least shows us that the dog tags help us find the soldier's name. Clifford Unger, a former US Special Forces member, but that's all they really know. Even Hartman, the beach expert, can't make sense of it. Since what's an Afghanistan-era soldier doing in World War I and II, leading him to have his first proper request for us. When heading out to take it, we get one more scene of the now identified Cliff meeting a man known as John, a seemingly really close friend.
And the second all this is over, I'm going to take you wherever you want to go. help you? Holy shit. John, is that you?
What are you doing here?
My wife's checked in. I don't want to repeat of last year.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were the...
After the vision, Hartman's delivery is given to us. Mama. Or more accurately, Mama's corpse, which for some reason isn't decomposing or showing signs of turning into a BT at all. Giving her Unlocked nature, studying her corpse could prove quite useful in understanding the Death Stranding. The delivery is no different than a standard body delivery, including having BB back again. Skipping to Hartman's lab, he's not quite awake, suffering cardiac arrest, leaving Sam to kind of awkwardly wonder what's going on, and to get scared by a statue.
I'm fine! My headphones are gone!
Before he survived.
Hartman?
Administering shock. Stand clear.
This is Hartman, the beach expert, and also the first time we get to properly meet the man. He at this point was hands down the most interesting member of Bridges we've met, living a certainly interesting life.
Still no sign of them.
You know your heart stops beating.
It stops every 21 minutes. I spend 3 minutes on the beach, and then return. 60 deaths and 60 resurrections per day. 60 opportunities to search the beach for my departed family. This is how I live. This is my life. So, while you've traveled to and from the seam an impressive number of times, my beach count is a little higher. 218,549.
To be honest, it's a rather sad one, where he is still stuck with the past, unable to move on from the deaths of his family caused by a void out while he was in the hospital, barely alive, only saved by his weird heart in the hospital coming back online, being forced to watch his family move on without him on the beach, now being stuck in this cycle of 21 minutes alive, then 3 on the beach, looking for his family so he can move on with his unique beach that lets him see others. It doesn't take him long to explain this, then look at what we finally brought him.
No sign of decomposition. It's as if she were still alive. The perfect mummy. An impeccable corpse.
What's wrong?
Where's the other thing you were supposed to bring? Ah, found it. Behold.
Wait, dead man.
It appears to be an umbilical cord. Human by the looks of it, I think. But this was no ordinary conduit between fetus and placenta. It looks more like a BT's tether. And this was Mama's?
He's fairly fascinated as well as excited by this, but also by something hidden in her body bag. An umbilical cord, undying just like a BT's. He doesn't have quite the time to study it yet, so instead tells us the theory of Cliff as well as the battlefields we're on. Beaches are all unique, usually driven by one's desires. Hypothetically, if enough desires and motions were pulled together and powerful enough, they might make, as he puts it, a purgatory where they're trapped, an army of the damned. Something Higgs might be controlling. For now, he's about to pass out, so he requests us to kindly wait. 3 entire real minutes. There's nothing really special in here besides funny symbolism of family on a beach, so we'll talk about this segment. Hartman's fantastic, more so than any other character so far, leading me to genuinely stop everything to actually listen to what he's saying, because it's just so interesting. Definitely an exposition dump, but very, very interesting so it doesn't feel like it. Personally, if the writing wasn't so good here, I'd probably hate it because of that, but since the writing is so solid in addition to him being the first person to properly provide insight, it kinda slides. When Hartman finally wakes up from being dead, and that's a statement, we go back to a bit of a more friendly conversation, where he explains that he's used to the cycle now, but he gets how it can be jarring for other people. Trying to relate to Sam, he actually even tells him about how his family died, for once leading to Sam sharing what happened with his family as well, finally opening up about his past to someone, either due to the people he's met or Hartman just going through a really similar struggle.
My body may be present, but my soul is on the beach. I'm already dead.
I know that feeling. Lost my family in an accident.
Well, I never expected you to open up to me.
He himself is still struggling to let go of his family just like Hartman. Unfortunately, the bonding is interrupted by the 21-minute cycle, rushing them to get back to business. Hartman didn't come to this area alone, at least at first, coming with an entire research team in Bridges 1 to where the dinosaurs died, hoping that maybe their extinctions had links to a Death Stranding. But before they could research anything, a weird amount of tar started to resurface, consuming most of the region before they could properly research together. Meaning we need to get Hartman's 3 remaining colleagues up on the network before returning back here. We're just collecting a bunch of data in a circular run. It's not too hard despite 2 facts. The first guy is easy, but the second, the paleontologist, needs an antimatter bomb to dig up some fossils deep below the ground. Now, I don't know what type of paleontologist he is, but I've seen people work with fossils before, and even if you've seen Jurassic Park, you should know it's a delicate process, not something you just blow up. Whatever. He needs it, so we bring it. Then we have to help him recover a previous delivery of a fossil that seemed to have an umbilical cord. The last person also needs us to collect some samples which aren't too far off from where they're at. But they are stuck in BT territory, which is also next to terrorist territory. Eventually, the Great Deliverer pulls through, returning back to Hartman, who has some big news. The first of which has to be off the record, leading to him faking his timestamps. Mainly because Die Hardman can't know that Deadman put the umbilical cord in there out of suspicion in him. The President's cord, which was outside of her body, an external entity alive but dead, just like Mama's corpse. The second is the data his colleagues has acquired had in fact bore fruit, with the eras upon eras supporting the fact our Death Stranding is not the first or the last, with plenty of fossils having umbilical cords, in addition to relatively preserved specimens of different species also having them. Hartman, as a result, makes a theory. The Death Stranding is an event that happens to specific species over time inevitably, with significant entities from each species being extinction entities, which can be identified via the umbilical cord, which we now know as a strand. Our President's strand, Sam's adopted mother, was likely one given the cord, logically letting us assume Amelie might be one too. Higgs may hope as much as least. This is our working theory of what's going on for the moment. It can't be developed much more since Hartman's timer is running out again, so he assigns us to go finish the chiral way station that was destroyed so the network may reach Edge Knot City. He also tells us we should deal with Die Hardman as we usually treat him, as to not raise suspicion on everyone trying to suss out what he's doing. The way station is our last delivery on this side of the tar belt, just getting the essential supplies to the way station so it's at least functional, leaving us with just getting across the tar belt. Something you have to figure out yourself. Yourself pulled in by a BT to pull up the buildings so you can run across the tar belt. Yeah, it's an absolutely insane idea that even Die Hardman is impressed by.
Can't say I would have ever thought of that. Well done, Sam. Well done, Sam. They're giving it your all. There's hope for us yet.
And I'll admit, it's awesome. Brute forcing your way through the ruins that have started to resurface in the tar, while evading these whale-like creatures, till we reach Amelie herself, who guides Sam across the belt with her beach. But instead of being greeted by her when awakening, it's by Higgs. Glad that we led him to Amelie with our chiral network, on the verge of ushering in his extinction.
Higgs! Keep your voice down. You don't want to scare the poor girl away, do you? She's in there. I can smell her. Of course, I wouldn't have known for sure if it wasn't for you and your wonderful network. Bless your heart. And thank you kindly. Oh, Sam Bridges. Careful. Contents are fragile. Like the world and everything in it. Me, I'm no exception.
He's oddly honest in this moment, almost friendly, likely due to the fact he feels there's nothing to worry about anymore, before disappearing to find Amelie herself. Rather funnily, we actually need to grab one more order here, the activation key of Edgenot City itself. But this situation is so urgent, we gotta take a nap, so we can get more Amelie, who's acting strange, admitting she thinks America is bullshit, and also that she lied. Higgs was right about everything, always telling the truth to Sam. She is an extinction entity, but she doesn't want to be, leaving Sam as her only hope, if not saving her, to at least stop her.
Sam. Promise you'll stop me. Don't let me end it all. I'll be waiting for you on the beach.
Amelie? Amelie!
Heading up, we get a final vision of Cliff Unger seemingly on his last legs, with BB before getting the key, which is a BB container itself, implying every single city or distro center we've been at likely has a BB built into it. Finally making our way into Edgenot City, we encounter a new type of BT as well, a floating jellyfish. It's honestly more of an environmental hazard since they pop like balloons. Taking any rifle to it invalidates any concerns since there's just one normal BT encounter here on top of that. It really is just a set piece to you properly being inside a city for once, even if it is destroyed. Reminding me a lot of Final Fantasy 15 of all games. We are mostly in the outskirts getting to see big cities from a distance, before the final act gives you the area you've been wanting to go to this whole time, really making it feel like the finale of the game. It's when connecting the city, then waiting for Amelie, where things go from weird to somehow weirder. Firstly, we get a scene with Amelie where she admits again she's the extinction entity, in a homo demon's uniform, before a big woman, then analog horror jump scare, caused by an alarm going off warning of a BT assault on the facility. BB even gives us one last memory before going to see what's going on.
Everything I needed, Sam. A complete chiral network. Spread all across America. Connecting all them precious little nuts. I got the whole world in the palm of my hands.
Amelie. 5.
5 mass extinctions, each caused by an extinction entity. And now it's time for number 6. Now, I'm not talking about the death of a few dozen species, no. This is the granddaddy of them all. BT antimatter voiding out all life as we know it. And it wouldn't be possible without a Boy Scout like you, willing to make us whole again. What do you say? Come on! Time to meet your ender.
A twist. Who would have expected that from a Kojima game? Wow. Higgs lays it out flat. While Amelie is under his control, Amelie is an extinction entity destined to cause an extinction. This one is different though. Mainly due to our chiral network, this Death Stranding won't be just a couple of races. This will be all life on Earth. And Amelie can do it since she's the source of all beaches. Dooms, BTs, rainfall, everything. It's set in motion now after everything, and as Higgs puts it, this is our chapter's boss. It also totally sucks. It's a simple target weak points on a massive health bar while making sure to avoid its ranged attacks in addition to its jellyfish summons. I kinda wish I had more to say, but this boss is just not really interesting at all. After its death, Higgs is still ahead of the game.
She's fine. Extinction's on hold for now. Let her go! All that for repatriate. What a waste.
I absolutely love how not only does BB save us from a death that wouldn't matter because it loves us, but also how when it gets shot, Sam sounds and looks frantic to save it, like he doesn't want to lose another child. Upon repatriation, we are left alone with BB in the ruins of Edge Knot City, with no way of reaching Amelie's beach on our own. So Sam contacts someone who can reach it, Fragile, using the dreamcatcher Sam's had the entire game as a bridge to cross the threshold. Waking up upon Amelie's beach for our climax, we find her and Higgs doing something? Shocking Amelie, before Higgs quickly moves to, quote, protect the extinction entity, revealing the truth behind him and the Homo Demons.
What are you gonna do to her? What I'm supposed to do? Keep the extinction entity safe until the slate is wiped clean. There's no stopping the 6th extinction. No matter what you, me, or anybody else does, humanity has a few 100,000 years left, tops. Why don't we just cut to the chase? Accept our fate. Let the creatures before us.
Does this guy not understand how long that is for a sentient species? Yeah, I'd get doomerism if we were supposed to go extinct in like 10 or 100 years, but this is like so far off. Why would you try to cause an extinction? It just doesn't make sense. It's enough time for us to leave the planet or understand the Death Stranding and how to stop it. Whatever. With more Kojima as writing, he invites us to one final 1v1.
So, no BTs, no void outs, no bullshit. Just a good old-fashioned boss fight. Stick versus rope. Gun versus strand. One more ending before the end. One last game over.
And ironically, he seems intimidating with his stick, but he's definitely more bark than bite. Like, look at these shots, dude. Turn your sensitivity up. What are you aiming at? We beat him by throwing a box at him, or going straight into melee to tie him up, and then kick the hell out of him. 4 times, just like Cliff. Then another 4 when he copes that he can totally use a gun and doesn't need it, so he'll use his karambit. Ironically being an easier fight than before, going down really quickly. With us moving to help Amelie before, guess what, he gets back up again. This time leading to an actual fighting game segment to beat his ass. I won't lie to you, I did definitely laugh at this just because how ridiculous it was with its dramatic music as we just wail on each other. Especially when they both fight to heal eating these cryptobiotes. I don't know what's more shocking here. Kojima did this, or it's not the first time he's actually did this, since this is basically how Metal Gear Solid 4 ended. Especially how they then have Higgs and Sam have like a heart-to-heart.
You're getting a little touchy-feely there, Mr. Phasmophobia. Well, congratulations. You won the game. Too bad you didn't stop shit. Well, get on with it.
This honestly reminded me more of something you'd see between friends, which these two are most certainly not. Hell, we don't even understand Higgs that much, with him feeling a bit like a wasted villain to me that didn't really live up to the hype he was given in the trailers and the game itself. Which is exasperated when you realize he does have a backstory, hidden away in logs that you have to find, where it's kinda well written, describing how he worked alone as a porter once, being a powerful individual who could spot BTs and help everyone, before Fragile comes along and makes him feel inadequate. Which, speaking of, here she is, ready to claim her part of the deal, dropping her awful fragile but not fragile line again. Come on, Kojima, you were not cooking with this line.
I'm fragile.
He said it! He said it!
Meanwhile, Sam reunites with Amelie while Fragile deals with him. Amelie being slightly sad that Sam took so long, but also slightly possessive when Fragile comes back with BB, offering to take the three of them wherever they want. Amelie basically just tells her to fuck off, which Sam agrees with. Amelie admits some lies when she leaves. She baited him here, lying to get him to build America for her and Bridget. But now that the job is done, it's time for them to run back east. But not before another bit of awful dialogue.
Do we jump like Fragile?
No. The beach goes the whole way. We run. Together.
Run?
Yeah. Like Mario and Princess Beach.
Reaching a hill, Amelie says she has to go deal with something, which Sam gets reasonably suspicious of, witnessing a peculiar scene.
President Bridget Strand. So you finally invited me to the beach. Remember this? It's the same gun. And now I'm using it to make things right. You were supposed to make the world whole, not fuck it all up.
Okay then. Get on with it. There is no atonement. Not for us.
Yes. It's me. John. Remember.
This is a lot to unpack. Die Hardman is actually John, the guy we saw Cliff meet way back in the memory during the hospital. But also Bridget is here, being a bit of an ass to everyone, including Cliff now with seemingly modern soldiers supporting him. Soldiers he then sends to deal with Sam. Something Amelie saves us from by pushing us away. A curious thing to note is how you don't see Bridget when Amelie shows up down there either. We repatriate with a creepy doll seen with Cliff. Sam awakes on the east side of the belt where we cross in the new facility, with Sam being understandably frantic due to what happened, but also Deadman doing some spooky stuff while he's asleep. Deadman explains Amelie is missing, still leaving with a note that she's going to finish their mother's plan. Due to there being absolutely no records of what actually happened, Deadman has nothing but Sam's first-hand experiences, believing what happened due to Die Hardman also being missing, necessitating Sam and by extension us to return to Capital Knot City. However, Fragile's been doing the rounds, delivering most of the team we've been working with to Capital Knot during an intense chiral storm, resulting in her being absolutely exhausted, unable to help us back the quick way. As much as Sam wants her to, everyone is there working together using their specialties to help Amelie and even Sam, leaving just him as the missing key to Amelie's speech that exists on a higher plane, meaning Sam needs to do one more delivery, himself. My reaction to this, as to many others, was cool, but also how is this game not over yet? Is this really the game that never ends? It kinda feels like it with this return, but fortunately it's not that long, especially if you skip the mountains like I did in a long-range truck going through the heavy rain. The trip itself is relatively uneventful if you avoid BTs, unlike me who forgot they were there while speeding. The big notes actually do come from what the crew discovers while waiting for you, namely Deadman digs up that the BB experiments were approved by the president to help us deal with BTs, but in reality, were actually used to build the chiral network, confirming what the package from EdgeNot implied. He also learns Cliff was involved with them after retiring from the military, giving his child over to the program, which lied to him about what would actually happen to his baby and wife, likely dying when he tried to regain custody of BB. But he's not actually a BT, with Hartman and Deadman hypothesizing he's more accurately an angry spirit, quite literally Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. And as if Cliff heard us talking behind his back, when reaching Port Knot City, he kidnaps us to his Shadow Realm once again, now being dropped straight into the Vietnam era, a surprisingly gorgeous location considering what's going on. At this point, you know the score. Take them down 4 times to get a cutscene, although this location being in the dark highly encourages stealth, which is very strong against their dumb AI here, killing the soldiers in a single hit. So of course I went in guns blazing, but this time when taking him down, we actually just talked to each other. Funny that we hadn't tried to this point, but to be fair, Cliff was really out of it. Cliff says that everyone called Sam Porter, but his real name is actually Sam Bridges, giving him a knowing look after Sam whistles the song back to him. With Cliff realizing so big, he calls Sam his bridge to the future, someone who unites people, his bridge, before giving us his dog tags and a hug. Not dressed as Clifford Unger, the vengeful phantom, but Cliff the loving father, before a gunshot pulls us out.
Get out of this place. There's nothing I can do for your wife. I'm sorry. Now, if she orders me to do something, I have to do it. I have to. But I served under you first. And your family doesn't deserve this. Any of this.
Why are you helping me? If they catch you.
Because you saved my life, sir. Again and again. When the brass sent us into the jaws of hell, it was you that brought us home.
This is obviously hinting at 2 things. One being Cliff can't be the one trying to end the world if he's acting like this. But also something massive I've actually realized, but we'll keep it on the DL for now, since when awakening from another dream, Sam is confident he is BB's father, telling Deadman as such. Meanwhile, Deadman has some news for Sam as well, from a message Die Hardman left behind. Namely, Deadman doesn't think Amelie is real. This theory of his would even be supported by things we've encountered, like how would Higgs know the president is dead, or that weird scene on the beach where Amelie's missing. He never even was a villain to us in the first place, just a man doing the best he can in a situation like this. It's gotta be hard when the woman you've devoted most of your life to may have actually been the biggest liar and most dangerous threat to life on Earth ever. Sam doesn't want to believe it, much like Die Hardman, but Fragile comes to confirm that he's probably right, at least with her being the one who orchestrated it all, with Higgs being the one to tell her in his last moments, as Amelie was the one who drove him on the crazy path he took in the first place, Fragile pulling the creepy baby doll from his BB container, the same doll we see with Clith, Die Hardman, and even during that one repatriation. The previous theory of the Homo demons making BB tech themselves is actually completely false. It was just a direct link given to them by Amelie herself. I actually quite like this reveal, even if it was kinda obvious if you paid enough attention or read enough logs, rewarding you a little for recognizing that something's not quite right with her. Meanwhile, making the discovery of this still feel mostly organic, with most of the theories every character having being partially right since they didn't have the whole picture to work with, not invalidating the time you spent with them while having a decent twist. The only gripe I really have with this and the story as a whole being presented like this was Higgs. It was kind of a red herring. A villain meant to get your attention away, not normally a bad thing, but leading to him being underdeveloped as a result, with the fact he was corrupted by Amelie being locked away in missable logs. I also apologize for lying because I completely forgot about this last delivery number 2. Fragile needs the bugs that can heal you, so you need to bring it to Capital Knot. An easy task till you realize the game throws another boss at you right in front of the door. The whale boss. It's a boss. Again, I really don't have much to say here either. It's not narratively important, it just kind of pads the time with another fight. In my opinion, this really should have been where Cliff's Vietnam scene should have been, but they probably thought they needed another gameplay segment before what follows this.
Sam.
You're back. It must have been one hell of a journey, especially on your own. But now the whole team is together again.
The whole team? Die Hardman too?
Too much traveling to and from beaches in such a short span. Chiral matter contaminated her cells, effectively causing jet lag on a molecular level. Because of that, her homeostatic mechanisms were shaken. Don't worry, she's not in any danger, but she needs some rest.
The whole gang is now back together, relieved to see us, with Die Hardman out in another room while Fragile's barely holding on right here, conveniently waking up upon Sam's arrival, with everyone but Die Hardman unsure exactly what to do. Hartman discovered with his speech that Amelie's in fact a completely different tier, a higher plane as he puts it, meaning no one can access it without a direct link, such as Sam's Dreamcatcher. But this plan has a catch. If Sam does stop Amelie by killing her, or if she doesn't feel like releasing him, he'll be stuck there forever till the end of time. The only real way to get her to stop and be released by her is realistically to just talk her out of the Last Stranding. Before leaving, Sam gives a bit of a really nice speech.
I'll talk to her. Maybe she'll listen. But with the shape the world's in, it'll only be delaying the inevitable. Still, if it buys us time to try and build something better, a new lease on life, at least for a little bit, well, I can think of one woman who made the most of a chance like that. Nothing lasts forever, not even the world. But we gotta keep it going as long as we can, right? Patch the holes, change the parts, all that. So we can say we had a good run, that we lived.
Thought you didn't like having to handle things with care.
'Cause it was hard enough keeping my own shit together. Back when we met at the cave, the only thing I cared about was making it to the next sunrise. Sure as hell didn't care about America or the future. I was living a lie, hung up on past regrets. I was broken. But somewhere along the way, I started changing. Started meeting people that made me think that maybe it wasn't all bad. People that put their faith in tomorrow, and in me. That kept the lights on, and waited for hope to arrive. So I gotta deliver, for their sake.
Even if it means you never come back?
Fuck Fucked if I do, fucked if I don't, right? Take care of Lou.
I will.
Couldn't find a working still mother east of Port Knot City. Kid's done enough. No more.
All right. I'll do my best to nurse our little one back to health.
Showing that he's not the same person he was at the start of the game. Everyone we interacted with and the people in this room are people he loves and cares about, moving on from living day by day, instead letting people in, forming real connections. He may not care about America, but he definitely cares for the people that make it up, enough to leave Lou in their care before taking the leap. Awakening as a baby, Amelie lays it out flat. She never existed as her own person, but neither did Bridget. They were two parts of one whole, that being the extinction entity. A hint to this actually comes with Amelie's name. In Japanese, her name is Ameri, one katakana off from America, America without the ka. We weren't quite in time to stop them before anything started, leaving two choices. Watch the world end with her, or sever the connection that the world now has with her, via killing her. Sam takes the third choice, embracing her instead of going for the kill, partially because the bullets didn't work. Making her realize that Sam really is the one who can stop this. At the beginning, when he was a shut-in pushing the world away from him, he definitely wasn't. But after the events of the game where Sam and ourselves learn the value of connection, getting out there and helping people, not because you have to, but because you want to, and finding something to make life not about living day by day. So instead of ending the world she and Sam love so much, she'll cut her beach off from everyone, leaving her alone for hundreds to even hundreds of thousands of years, till the extinction eventually happens, allowing everyone to live the lives they want while cherishing the time they have. Maybe in that time we'll out-evolve the Death Stranding itself, who knows? Leaving Sam on the beach with just Die Hardman's gun to wander while Amelie's ghost explains things to us in a giant exposition dump credits, revealing a ton of stuff, so get ready. The Death Stranding is very likely the result of the Big Bang being an accident, with the universe trying to correct itself, but life keeps finding a way to survive. The Death Stranding didn't even actually start with void outs that first killed the president. BTs and void outs were kind of just a phenomenon that started to happen in the normal world. The real Death Stranding actually happened when Bridget accidentally killed Sam with the same revolver Die Hardman had. But she brought him back, making him the first repatriate in case of dooms, spreading both while starting the Stranding due to breaking the laws of nature. She didn't mean to do it, but it happened. All extinctions cause it, intentionally or not eventually. Still, being stuck here for a very long time, Sam thinks of his only way out. Which doesn't work, instead being beckoned by 5 figures. 5 familiar voices.
I see him. This way. Oh my God. He's over there. Over here, Sam. We're coming, Sam. You ready, brother?
Yeah, it's the power of friendship that brings him back, skipping us to the scene of Die Hardman doing a presidential speech, addressing the new United States of America, an address Sam doesn't really care for, with Deadman coming to him while he leaves, realizing that Sam isn't afraid of touch or connection anymore, his phobia being long gone. Deadman explains how they got Sam back, namely working with everyone's talons to confirm his location, then weaving what was left of Bridget's umbilical cord to make a quipu on their clothes to tie them together, and finally using the pistol that started everything to bring you back, the stick that became a rope. He also reveals Cliff's wife's last name was Lisa Bridges, an obviously implication Sam is probably their son. Theory crafting is cut short by Die Hardman coming to talk, not asking for forgiveness but looking to explain why he did things, namely against Cliff, despite his love for him and Bridget, breaking down and elaborating that despite what happened, Cliff forgave him, even after remembering everything. Die Hardman doesn't think he deserves the sympathy, to be treated so well, even believing he should keep being Die Hardman, not the real man that he is, a thought that Sam squashes, pulling him back together before he decides to leave.
He wanted me to do this. To keep on being Die Hardman.
No. He didn't. Nobody wants a president who acts like they're immortal. And if you're not scared of death, how can you value life? And life is pretty fucking fragile right now. And yeah, the old ways die hard. But that's what's gonna have to happen if we're gonna come together and build a better America. That gun won't help you here. That's her words, not mine.
Thank you, Sam.
But it's not over yet, with Deadman bringing us a failed Lou, her time running out finally. He thought we'd want to dispose of her personally after all our time together. Sam could also try opening it to let her out, although there's a 70% chance of failure. Sam accepts, but before he goes, Deadman gives Sam the ability to take off his cufflinks that tie him to the UCA. If he wanted to, he can go anywhere and do anything without anyone knowing. Sam gives him one final real hug before going to finish the job. Fragile even shows up to talk with him, seeming like she wants something more with him. But right now, Sam just opened up as Lou is dying. He's not in the right space for anything, leaving her for one long walk to the incinerator, Lou in hand. Upon reaching the incinerator, Sam tries reconnecting with the seemingly dead Lou one more time, being given more time in the memories, but in a much clearer view than we've ever seen. Now, this is the 30-minute cutscene you've probably heard about, showing all previous scenes we saw before, but in a much clearer view with a new perspective, showing Cliff trying to do his best for Bibi, but getting blocked time and time again by Bridget, till John, Die Hardman, his lifelong friend, arrives, telling him the whole truth, while sabotaging the systems with his top-level access, giving him the chance he needs to take Bibi then run. Cliff takes the opportunity, putting the wife he loves so much out of her misery, while trying to take Bibi away. Unlucky for him, security's tight, leading to Cliff getting shot then cornered by Bridget's security led by Bridget, while John keeps trying and failing to get them to stop, a futile effort that Cliff appreciates. In his final moments, Cliff himself gets to talk to Sam, proving that this is in fact a game written by Kojima with another name pun in one really great moment I almost teared up in.
But you're Sam Bridges. My son. My bridge to the future. Without you, I was just like any other Cliff. Dead end. No way forward. Nothing but an obstacle. Looking on at the world people like you were trying to build. Dividing people was the only thing I was ever good at.
This was stupidly obvious that Sam was his son, but it's kinda nice to get a direct statement of who Sam's father really is, since no one in the narrative would have figured it out. The Lou being special thing was probably just a red herring, but that doesn't make Lou any less important to Sam, as he, instead of burning Lou, burns his cuffs while trying to bring Lou back to life, but she's long gone. Instead, in one last act of love, Amelie brings Lou back, leaving them with Sam's Kipu that he gifted many years ago before cutting herself off forever, with Sam and Lou walking out into a normal rain with a normal rainbow, the sign of the end of the Death Stranding. Death Stranding truly is an experience you can get nowhere else. It's weird, hard to understand at times, slow, but also unique in ways you'll probably never see in another franchise. A game where the director was given basically full control and say over what this game would be. It may be a bit preachy or obviously speaking to the player in obnoxious ways at the times, but it's all worth it. With the gameplay, world, and music, even its absurd but kinda profound narrative were crafted to what they envisioned it to be, even if the experience was very slow in the beginning to the mid-game, then giving a confusing narrative towards the end, before wrapping it up in a really nice bow, giving a surprising sense of content with the story almost, even if there are still a few lingering questions that may or may not matter in the grand scheme of things. I'll say it again, you need to play this yourself, because no matter how slow or not really engaging those first few hours may seem, if you really, and I mean really, give this game a chance, give it your all to attempt to really understand and connect with what Kojima was putting down, I'm sure you, like me, will find an experience that'll keep you wanting to come back for more. A game that's luckily getting a sequel. Death Stranding isn't perfect, but it's one of a kind.
Louise.